Hey everybody, this is Chuck Rowe from Midwest Studies Group. Thanks again for joining us for another video in our video series. With so many nonprofits changing to virtual fundraisers, we thought we'd have a special panel discussion to talk about that. We have a great group of panelists with us today. I'm going to ask each of you, since we have so many, to just introduce yourselves and tell us which nonprofit you work with.
Okay,
Hi,
I guess
I'm Sara Kelsey. Oh. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Sara.
Okay, I'm Sara Kelsey, and I'm the Director of Mission Engagement here at the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Cedar Valley.
And I'm Felicia Filep. I'm the Director of Development at the Humane Society in Sedona.
I'm Katie Boyden. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at the Humane Society for Greater Nashua in New Hampshire.
And I'm Emily Steinmetz. I'm the Sponsorship and Event Manager for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Minnesota.
So isn't that the great thing about Zoom, is that people inadvertently talk over each other, and then nonprofit people are so nice. It's kind of like, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. So thanks for dealing with all this Zoom fun that we have today. So anyways, the first question I just want to throw out there is in regards to the event that you had in place that you maybe do every single year to what it got changed to. So maybe if, one of you at a time could just explain what your event was and what it got changed to virtually.
Okay, maybe I'll go first. It's kind of funny because you feel like you want to look left to right. So like we would read. So we had what we call our Pet Lovers Gala. We have it every year, kind of the last Saturday in September. And it's an in-person event, about 300 people or so. So it's a dinner, usually, some type of musical entertainment, auction, both silent and live auction. So we took that whole event and really put it online this year. So that was ours, but we kept it as a Pet Lovers Gala. We didn't change oh, and who's that? Who's Kitty?
Sacco.
Hi. That's so fun when they want to be on screen too.
She loves Zoom.
So go ahead, I'm done.
Sure, I can go next. So two of our events have been hit by this pandemic scenario. So last spring, we were about 4 weeks from hosting our spring gala, and that's about 600 to 650 people in person. We've done it for many, many, many years, and we transitioned portions of it online. And then in the fall, we usually do a large bowling event called Bowl for Kids' Sake, which we've had to sort of reimagine and also do mostly virtually. So we've had two events that we've had to transition now since this whole deal started.
So we had two events that were affected as well. Our Harley party is typically in the spring, and then our game show night is in the fall. And we were going to make an effort to combine those and do them in person this fall. Then we were going to do part in person with a smaller audience and then virtual. And then at the last minute, it ended up being all virtual, which we had to remove the game show night aspect of it just because of social distancing, making sure we weren't too close to people and things like that.
Yeah, we've been affected. I think we've had 3 major events that were affected, but we only moved one to be virtual just because the other 2 were a festival and a yard sale. And we kind of looked into ways to do them virtually and found that it just would not have been as successful. But our gala, which also encompasses a silent and a live auction, we moved that to be virtual in May as well. And we found that was a lot of fun and something that we're excited to kind of play with in the future to see what parts of it we can keep.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, everyone. And what people don't realize is that you guys are honestly and happily putting yourselves out there, telling both the good and the bad of how the virtual event went, just for the sake of helping other nonprofits. So just wanted to thank you so much for doing this. So you're told that you're going to be moving your regular event to a virtual event. What's the first thing that goes through your mind?
For
Probably.
me,
Oh.
sorry. Do you want to go?
No, go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, for me, it was just research. I wanted to look into, we were pretty fortunate, and I'm sure that you can all attest to this, but as nonprofit workers, we get so many emails from various platforms who, you know, their end goal is usually to get us to sign up and use their platform, but they do have good information. So I was probably sitting in on 2 to 3 webinars a day just to learn how to be successful. So that was my first thing that went through my mind, was after terror, was what can I learn and how can I become equipped for this?
Yeah, for us, it was, I guess the challenge that I was worried about is that our audience, because Sedona is only about 12,000 population and a lot of seniors. So, and a lot of them are not social media savvy. So it was a bit of a, you know, kind of, uh-oh, is this even this format? Is this going to work? So that was for me. I mean, I did the same thing. I was doing a lot of webinars and research as well. But I think, you know, in the back of the mind, it's just, wow, can we pull this off when everybody's not in person?
I think I did, you know, the same thing, spent a lot of time watching videos of people who had successfully hosted virtual events. I had sort of a short time span to turn things and was just looking at as much as I could possibly incorporate in that time frame. The one thing that I kept telling myself that I had to my benefit was that this benefit had never been done virtually before. So what we got is what we got. And there was no, I was like, if it goes wrong, as long as we're there and we're online, we had an event, right? It's just kind of what I was like, as long as we get it done.
Yeah, I definitely echo everything the rest of the panel said. So I guess we can say that lots of things ran through our minds simultaneously right off the bat. One thing I'd like to add is my mind went right away to the vendors we work with and the sponsors. So the vendors, I mean, that was a dark couple of days when you're having to call and cancel on people that you've worked with for years on these really special events in our community, and you know, caterers, event production crews, the decorating committee, all of those folks who had invested so much time and love and resources into the events. How do we talk with them about what's happening immediately, and then how can we navigate the future together? And similar conversation with sponsors. What does it mean to be an event sponsor when your event is in such major transition? Is it transitioning where they're feeling like they're investing dollars wisely and to both of our benefits? And so those were all conversations that we had to have right away in the first few weeks, even before we could make decisions about what we were going to look like when the dust settled with our event. So
Well,
yep, all of that.
And you bring up a really good point in regards to sponsors, by the way, in that, you know, when you have a sponsors for especially like a dinner or something like that, I mean, you have, you know, maybe a sponsor's name on banners or table tents or napkins or, you know, even rolls of toilet paper. I don't know what else you put it on, but whatever crazy thing you could put it on in order to make a package sound bigger and better, you figure out a way to do it. Now, all of a sudden, you're doing something virtual. How did you change your packages to make people feel like they got a good bang for their buck?
For us, we did, because we were working with a production company locally, we wrapped that into the sponsorship, that the production company would produce a professional commercial for them that they could use for the future. And that the amount of the time, you know, if it was a 60-second or a 30-second commercial, that it, you know, we'd send the film crew out to them. They do all the production, add the music, any kind of special formatting, digital stuff, whatever they wanted. depending on their sponsorship level, it got more complex or less complex depending on the sponsor amount. So that seemed to be quite a draw for a lot of people, which I was surprised. But then also we had a lot of people, just sponsors, who just wanted to use their cell phone and do their own ad, sitting on their sofa in their home, or in their office. So it kind of varied, but that's how we kind of use the video or the technology to our benefit with the sponsors.
Great idea.
I love that
So
you.
for us, we didn't, oh,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for us, we didn't really make a whole lot of change necessarily to the package. A lot of our sponsors had committed back in March when the event was originally going to be held. So it was more of a later conversation of, okay, I know we pushed this, we talked about canceling it, and there were such long-term relationships with people in the community that a lot of it was just, no, we commit our funds to that every year. We believe in the cause as long as that's still benefiting the club and the kids. We're not concerned about any of it. Some of what I tried to do is go into our silent auction software and upload logos of the sponsors. I did a Facebook Live where I just had a list of all the, I said other stuff, but I had a list of the sponsors and just thanked them all for what they'd done to help us out. Things like that, just to kind of give them something in an effect where previously I don't know what else can really be done virtually a whole lot.
I would argue that they had more sponsor benefits this year than they have ever had before. If I'm looking at a table and I see a logo on a table tent, that might stick with me, but once I walk away from that table, I'm likely to forget about it. But by having the logos, we have them on our sponsor page, our website, and all of our social medias, as well as we had allotted time in our program to thank them and have their logo projected on our video screen. If it's clickable, I'm looking for a car and I see Subaru's logo there and I can click it and I'm already on their website. Whereas if I'm walking away from it, it's not bringing traction there. Plus their exposure is limited to about 100 people in a ballroom, whereas now you have 10,000 people tuning in to see your brand. So we found that they're moving forward, we have more interest in our events just because people are excited to get those more digital sponsor benefits and move away from those more traditional ones that weren't necessarily effective.
I'll piggyback on that, Katie, and can I just say that Subaru is fantastic. Yay, Subaru. So we had been discussing and in the works probably at about a year before the pandemic hit, how to move some of our sponsorship from inside events to other places throughout our agency, and maybe some other opportunities related to recruitment of bigs, just a whole bunch of different ways. And so the pandemic kind of forced our hand, right? Our first event that got affected, most of those sponsorships were in already. And we tried to do what some of the others did and just sort of let them know that, we're going to take usually we print a beautiful program booklet and a lot of the ads are in there. We're going to, we made that into a digital flip book that's actually going out to thousands and thousands of people instead of those that were just in attendance at the event. And so trying to communicate some of what Katie said with those new opportunities actually are expanded. And then with sponsorship, how it looked in our fall event, which is happening right now, we're working with one premier sponsor. And so a higher value that we're really just taking with us everywhere we go virtually. And then we've got some media sponsors with our local billboards and newspaper and radio. And then those other sponsors that were normally within that fall event, we're having really amazing conversations with them about where else could those dollars go within our program. So just looking at sort of readjusting how many sponsors we have per event. and going deeper with those sponsors in our events.
Well, I love the digital and the social media avenues that a lot of you are looking at. I mean, I hear from sponsors all the time that say that social media and just tagging them on a post is so much more important these days than putting their logo on a poster like it was, 10 years ago. So now let's take a 60-minute online event as an example. Two-part question for you. What sort of things did you do to entertain people for that long of a time? And is 60 minutes too long or too short? Again, you might not have done 60 minutes, but just using that as an example, 60 minutes too long or too short? And what did you do to keep people entertained during your time?
Well, we did, okay, so for as far as entertainment, we were fortunate that the media company we worked with had a lot of contacts with local entertainers. So we actually had, about 10 local entertainers step forward and volunteer their time to, send us videos of, we sent the media team out, so they went and filmed them performing. Some of them did it in their, living room with their grand piano. The others were on a stage performing for us and film, or they actually went on for another show. So they did like a special entertainment segment for us. We had a couple that are local actors, and they did a whole series of skits and songs, and it was great. They did little plugs for us and had their animals involved. So, we were lucky to have that entertainment as well. But because our theme was the 1920s, so we did the Roaring 20s in 2020, and we had, a lot of different people locally who, especially the best part I felt was we reached out to the historic museum, the historic society here in Sedona, and they did a whole, it was only 10 minutes, but it was great. And they pulled images of Sedona in the 1920s, and they talked about the fact that the Spanish flu, there were people wearing masks. It was so cool, and then we talked about the wineries and how the wineries developed. So they had all these different topics that we kind of stretched out throughout the week. Prohibition, moonshine, all this kind of fun stuff. So we used that on the night as well. But then we also had special guests come in. We had an auction item that was the fire department and the police department were volunteering time with their canine unit, and then also during their fire training. And so they popped in during the 60 minutes, let's say, if that was an event. So we had some good stuff. We had the auction items in the same room. So, we'd pan over to the auction items, show them, talk about them. Then you'd see a video from, one of the people who provided the auction item, and they'd be talking about the item. So it was like a telethon almost. So that would be my, kind of 2 cents on the entertainment factor. So, and we had cooking. We had a cooking class.
Oh, well.
We had, we even had a local chef who's Italian, and he had, had pictures of his family in the 1920s. And they, had their own store. This was back in, I think it was Chicago, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But, and so he went to the farmer's market locally, took us there, we filmed that. And then he came back to his restaurant and cooked a meal with his son, actually 2 meals. And so we encourage people to do that at home, on gala night, to cook, the same Italian meal that was kind of 1920s themed. So it was cool.
Oh gosh, Felicia, I don't know if anyone wants to go after you now. My goodness.
Oh, I'm sure there's lots of
lineup.
other ideas that I would love to use. So we were lucky. We had a lot of people locally that were up for doing something fun because everybody was so, going stir crazy being at home. So
What other fun things did some of the rest of you do?
Well, we also, we're also an animal shelter, and we also did a Roaring 20s theme.
yay!
Yeah. We called it the Great Catsby. So it was kind of a cat theme this year. So we wanted to keep it was really important to us that we kept the gala aspects that were crucial, and made it more than just a show. We really wanted it to be an experience. So we created party boxes, especially with an auction. Now, I started at the Humane Society at the end of January, so this would have been my first gala. But I had been told that with auctions, alcohol is really important to fueling that bidding. So in the party boxes, there was a heat and eat meal, little treats for human and pet, little flapper hats and cute little things. And then, of course, a bottle of wine to kind of fuel that. And leading up to it, we did some mixology classes with some 20s themed drinks.
Oh, we had that too. Yep, we had a cocktail person come. Yep.
Yeah, so that we had shown so that people could be prepared for that evening. And it was also important to us that no one was in their pajamas while watching this, because if I'm in my pajamas, I'm going to fall asleep. I'm going to walk away from the screen. So we had encouraged people to dress up, but more than just encouraging it, we had a photo contest where we pulled those photos and streamed them on. And similarly to what you guys did, we just had one performer because we wanted to keep it under an hour. So we had the most incredible local performer. He performed live, and it was just, I was blown away. It was hard to follow him. He was in the middle of our show, but just strategically placing the programming so that it was entertaining throughout, but that it never lost focus of the purpose of why we were there, which was to fundraise. So it was a co-host or two co-hosts kind of feeding off of each other and making it exciting throughout. While also plugging in those fun little aspects and having people at home sharing pictures with their party boxes, with their meal. And, we wanted to bring the party to them was kind of the whole point of the evening. So those were some.
And I love that idea. I've heard of some other people doing similar things, bringing like food and drink to certain sponsors and stuff like that. And just curious, I love the picture idea. So when people posted pictures, did you share your screen so you saw them live, or did people just go on social media themselves to see pictures? Or
so we worked with the most incredible production company. I don't know if I'm allowed to say their name, but I would love to because they're phenomenal. So I won't for now, but if I can, I will later. But they had an LED wall behind us where they were able to then project just anything that you wanted, and it looked like you were really there. They have since created a curved LED wall that really makes it look like you're there. So I kind of wanted another gala just to use that wall. But they put the photos, they had somebody, their designated job was just to be there pulling the photos and getting them right to them so they could put them up on the screen during that portion.
Well, gosh darn it, these other ladies already marketed Subaru. So, I mean, if you want to say the company later, you're more than welcome to. But that sounds really awesome, though. Anyone else?
Well, we did things a little bit differently. So with our spring one, we took the videos that we had produced for the program. We're just a couple weeks out from our event, and we retooled them and sent them out with our promotion of our silent auction. So it was kind of like if you take bits and pieces of a program that you would sit and watch, it was coming to them in snippets as we promoted and funneled them to the silent auction. So that's what we did on that last spring in lieu of a program like the others are describing. And then we did do, at the conclusion of our auction, we also just did a quick Facebook Live, and we did our raffle ticket drawing. We had 10 prizes that we gave away through our raffle. So we did get on and spin the big wheel and pull the names out and do that. It lasted maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. and then thank them for their support in the silent auction and things. So we did everything through communication and promotion, even the thanking of the sponsors and distributing our flip book, our virtual program booklet, so and then for the fall here, we have a peer-to-peer campaign running. And so all of our marketing is going towards getting teams, and then the teams are fundraising on our behalf. And so we're going to do a 25-minute celebration of all of the stuff that had happened over the month of October. And that'll be November 5th. And that's going to highlight our program, highlight what our matches, our bigs and our littles have been up to, which is mostly virtual meetings. We've got some really cute videos highlighting all of that, highlighting the teams that participated in the fundraiser. We'll have a text to give on the screen so that people can also give while they watch. And so that's what we've got planned for this fall. Your 60-minute question, we're doing 25 minutes. So.
Well, some of you, or not even just some of you, but just people out there in general, some people have pre-recorded their entire show and then just showed the recorded show, or some people actually use like Facebook or Zoom or Google in order to do an actual live show. What platform did you guys use, and what did you like or not like about that platform?
So when we did ours, we were on both Facebook and Zoom. We used initially it was just going to be Zoom, but there was so much interest over Facebook, we decided to go live through there as well. However, we ran into the most issues with Facebook. Some people were able to view the event while others were not. We didn't have, we had our full-time staff there and a couple of board members, and they were receiving text messages. I can't see the feed. I can't see this. So essentially what we had to do was just direct everyone over to the Zoom. So while I think Facebook is really good for getting the information about the event out, I think there's some technical issues that you can't really control what Facebook kind of flags and or doesn't, and what gets by them, or at least that's what we ran into on our end. That was difficult.
We did Facebook and YouTube, and we made sure that all of the music that we did was either owned by us. We actually have a former staff member who wrote a musical about adoption, so we used her music for background footage. We also started 10 minutes early. Our production company was able to get into both our Facebook and YouTube accounts to stream live through whatever magical coding that they do. And we really wanted it to start early so that if there was an issue, they would fix it beforehand, and they just had slides and music going, music which belonged to us, so that it wouldn't get flagged, and slides that would say, oh, it's going to start in 10 minutes, stay tuned, it's going to start at 7. And then our performer performed acoustic, which I guess Facebook doesn't recognize as any backtracking, but when you have backtrack, they will most likely flag that. So they are very finicky when it comes to what music you play. Definitely.
Good to know.
We'll be using Facebook and YouTube. Our program is pre-recorded. We actually have most of it done already. And we'll be doing a countdown video as well.
Okay. So it sounds like you guys had some fun events so far, and I love how you're using different platforms and multiple platforms so you hit everybody. So anyway, sorry, Felicia.
Oh, no, that's okay. So we did kind of a bit of both pre-recorded and live. So we actually had a whole week of what we called Yappy Hours. And each day was different. So we had Moonshine Monday, 20s Tuesday, Whiskey Wednesday, Talkies Thursday, and Flapper Friday. So we had.
I'm starting to see a theme with you, Felicia.
I know.
A lot of drinking going on, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as Katie mentioned, you can't do alcohol on your silent auction. So you've got to, somehow get it communicated that drinking is okay during this event. So we did have, like I mentioned before, we had a cocktail expert come in and do 20s cocktails. But so we pre-recorded all of the Yappy Hours. And then, we had within those adverts and things from the different sponsors, but we did do those on Facebook live stream. And because, as I mentioned before, our audience is not super tech savvy, we had some challenges because a lot of people didn't have Facebook accounts. And although you can watch a live stream on Facebook, it was challenging for some, and we think we lost quite a few people because of that. And then on the night when we actually were live in this, quote unquote TV studio in a ballroom in a hotel, I wanted to do YouTube and Facebook, and we didn't do YouTube. And I think it had something to do with, at least for us, the signal loses strength when you live stream over both. At least that's what our media people told us. So we really focused just on Facebook. We didn't even put it on the website, which I wanted to do as well. So the challenge for us again in Sedona is we have Suddenlink, and unfortunately they are not super reliable. So we were worried, if we really started to spread things too thin, that we would have issues.
So that's a good point, is that wherever you are, you might want to check your bandwidth that you use to make sure that you have enough. So good point. So when you look back on things, when it comes to the entertainment or maybe silent auction, live auction, or whatever else you did to entertain during that live time, what are some of those woulda, coulda, shoulda things that you wish you could have done differently now that you know what the experience was like?
I mean, for us, we probably, seeing how much we did too much. So I think, having the 5 days lead up and although we had the silent auction going at the same time, so we did, about a week of silent auction being open and for bidding. I think just, maybe the Friday and the Saturday would have been enough. We didn't really need to do as much, but all these webinars were saying, no, do more, you'll get more bidding and get more interest. And it really turned out to be a lot more work. And I think that would have been, we could have achieved probably the similar goal without as many of the Yappy Hours. So next year, hopefully we're in person. That's what I'm hoping. So.
And I'm on the reverse of that, is I would have done more. We tried to kind of do an in-between with a DJ who was playing covers of all the songs, but they weren't acoustic, like was mentioned. So that was kind of our issue of running into stuff. And then we were going back and forth and doing some interviews with staff and showing off some silent auction items. But you could kind of see the people interacting on Zoom, and I just wish that people seemed more engaged, and I wished that I had put more I don't know if you say participation, but more activities in that time.
Gets to the point where someone says, Sarah, get out there and juggle or something.
Right, basically, like go act like you're looking at the items.
Yeah.
It's like, I saw them all, I've seen them, but okay, sure.
Yeah, we also, not necessarily that we did too much, but we extended it to be a bit too long. So we did our silent auction the entire month leading up to the live event, closed it the night before, and then only did live items that evening. And that was way too long. It was super exciting for about a week, and then it just kind of sat there, and then it got super exciting again. And you want to keep that excitement, and you want them to be close together. So I would definitely not recommend doing a month-long silent auction. That was a little bit ridiculous for us. And then I would also we did test runs, but we kind of got a little bit bold and we kind of did our test runs assuming everything would be perfect, and we didn't do test runs for what would happen if suddenly your bidding tool is not working, or what would happen, you know, if something goes wrong. And next time I would definitely just like find as many things as could go wrong and test run those, and not test run, you know, what you hope would happen. Because when we did have a small glitch, we all kind of froze for a second there. So
If I had to go back and change anything, I think I would have advised myself to just make decisions earlier.
Yep.
I think we lacked the confidence at that time, and it was all so unknown. And hindsight being the gift that it is, I guess. Yeah, I would have advised myself to be confident in early decisions. And I know a lot of people suggested you make plan A, B, and C. And in the event world, I mean, we already do that. So it's really like you're getting down to plan like X, Y, Z, honestly. And it's just too much. So making those decisions early and with confidence, everything else falls into place. Then you're able to spend more time on your planning, more time on your committees, more time on your communication, more time on your promotion, just all of it. So
well,
push back.
that's actually a perfect lead in to what I was going to ask next is, you know, we talked about the shoulda, woulda, coulda during the event, but what about the shoulda, woulda, couldas for the prepping, the planning, the organizing before the event? What would you have changed?
I would have had more volunteers. We had, because of COVID, and you know, we just did not have the volunteers available like we have before. So it was really kind of me and maybe one or two other people. So I was doing pretty much everything. So that was not easy because it's a lot of work, especially behind the scenes. You know, just organizing the you know, the email blasts, the social media campaigns, you know, scheduling all of those, making sure you got the right message. So, you know, that was our challenge. You know, as far as staffing, we had a committee, of course, but a lot of the committee were not available to help or didn't have the experience or the knowledge. You know, they just are not tech savvy, so they didn't want to, you know, learn, which is fine. I wasn't going to force anyone, but I think that was a big challenge for us. But again, that's our donor base, our supporters. So that might be different for everyone else.
This was a time too when we were having discussions about how long does the virus stay on cardboard? How long does the virus stay on stainless steel? You know, we're picking up these items, asking volunteers to try to, you know, oh my gosh. It was just another world at that time with volunteers.
Yeah.
I think I would have gone more with my gut and less with the, well, hopefully by that time mentality, because I mean, I think people are just so ready for this to be over that a month out, you're in a group meeting and everyone says, well, I mean, hopefully by next month, things are going to be back to normal. And you're like, that sounds really great. You're right. Hopefully next month, things are back to normal. In reality, everyone's been locked inside since March. What is the actual reality that hopefully next month you're back to? Like, I wish I would have just been like, you know, I really hope you're right. And I hope I look really dumb, but let's go ahead and just do this.
Gotcha. So then, you know, to get back to the world being back to normal is, I would assume that most of you want to get your events back to in person again. Would any of you, though, after they're in person and the world's back to normal and everyone's, you know, the birds are singing and the rainbows are out and the unicorns are flying, like what about a virtual event? Do any of you have any interest in keeping some sort of a virtual event after doing this?
I do. I think I alluded to it a little bit when I introduced myself, but this, I would say, was a blessing in disguise. We were forced to try out these new tools, and some of them worked really well. from what I understand, a lot of people were afraid to try virtual bidding or to try mobile bidding before, because the classic, however they used to bid, writing it on a piece of paper or whatever you do for a silent auction, that was working really well, and they didn't want to try something new. But we've now seen that it works, and we've learned ways to educate kind of our older crowd and get them comfortable with it. So we kind of were forced into this. And when you do your silent auction online, we ended up having people bidding who lived in California. Like I mentioned, I'm in New Hampshire. So we were able to expand. And then on top of that, I'm 25. And so speaking for myself and most of my age group, I'm not going to spend $75 on a ticket and then continue to donate to you and bid to you. Like that $75 was my donation. And so we were able to open it up to our target audience, which is millennials, because they're not going to buy a ticket. That's just not who usually comes to our event and bids on things. So we were able to expand it. And by making it hybrid next year, we'll be able to expand our audience even further and, you know, incorporate more people in our bidding and in our circle. So I'm super excited to move forward in the virtual world, mixing it with the in-person world.
I completely agree with that. We had people that said for whatever reason that they either weren't comfortable or maybe they didn't know if they could find a babysitter. Or I had one person say that he had a grandchild due at any time, but he would still like to see everything. And the same thing with the silent auction. People had said, I don't really know, I don't want to win a Harley. Like I don't want. And it was, they were like, I know it's for a good cause, but it's just not for me. But I had a friend who she passed up a ticket and she ended up bidding on and winning a bathroom remodel that was donated to us. And it was a good donation to the club. Like I was like, oh my gosh. So the $30 ticket didn't work for you, but this hundreds of dollars. Okay, I'm good. Tell me no every year on your ticket. That's fine.
You both bring up excellent points. These are the things we're learning are things that we've wanted to learn, but haven't had the capacity because we've been working so hard on what's traditionally been done. And so this has forced us into a whole new world. These events, to your points, are bringing in brand new donors we've never seen before. So the new strategy becomes, how do we keep hold of these brand new folks and keep them engaged? How do we go back and make sure that those who like to attend events are being taken care of as well? So smaller, more concentrated events with folks who love events. And the hybrid option is one. So, I mean, sky's the limit now. This is really, really exciting.
And if
I think for us, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
I would say, you know, I think the hybrid is probably going to happen for us. We'll probably do a spring auction because we didn't sell everything. All the auction items didn't go, surprisingly, but we got a lot more auction items than I expected. I mean, I really thought that people were not going to be as generous. And I had people, you know, walking in the front door, bringing stuff in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, because they'd seen it in the paper or something like that. So, you know, we almost had too much, and we packaged a lot of stuff together, but we still had too much. So, so we'll probably take those items and use them in the spring. But I think for next year, you know, hopefully some part of it's going to be in person, but we'll probably have the silent auction online before the actual event, so we can get more, you know, the bids moving, because usually at our events there's not a lot of bidding going on. Everybody's socializing and they'll pop over to the table and look at things, and maybe they'll write down one bid. But I think having that availability of, you know, seeing it at least a week before, maybe not a month. I can see why a month was a little long, but I would have probably tried it too if we had that option. So I think probably a little of both. And I think too, we probably use the, you know, possibly the social media, you know, pull for the sponsorships, because we did see, a particular level of sponsorship really explode because of, it wasn't the highest, it wasn't the lowest, it was kind of the middle one, but that one usually is the one that everybody kind of ignores. So I think the fact that they could do a 30-second professionally made spot, that they got a copy of, that they could put on their website or whatever, put it on their Facebook page, that was a big plus for them. So we'll probably do that again.
And last question for you guys is, there's some development director or an executive director out there right now whose virtual event is in about 2 months and they're panicking to death. And you've been through this, the stress that goes along with it. In 1 or 2 sentences, what's one last piece of advice that you would give those people that are going through this right now?
I would say that keep in mind that people are going to give you grace, that they understand what the situation is that you are in and the challenges you're up against. They're a part of your event because they support your cause, not for what you can actually give them.
I would say probably going back to the testing part of it, we had some issues with our silent auction. And it wasn't as user friendly as we thought. And I think had I had a bigger committee available to test it, that would have flagged some things ahead of time that we could have probably taken care of. But 2 months out, just schedule as much as you can. That's all I've got to say with the social media is there's so much, the night before, the night of, the 5 minutes before, it's overwhelming. At least it was for us because we didn't have as many social media experts as maybe some other organizations. So
I would say focus on a strong marketing strategy, strong promotion. If that means sacrificing minutes in a program, I would advise to do that. Getting people to whatever it is you create is the number one objective. So write out that strategy, follow it, get some volunteers to help you make it a reality. And yeah, without people, the event isn't going to go very far. So marketing, marketing, marketing.
Yeah, and I would just say, first and foremost, let yourself have fun with this chance to be creative, really explore the bounds of what you can do. And really importantly, invest in your promotion and your production. So similar to the marketing, but also, that expensive production company could be your make it or break it moment. And I would say it's completely worth it to invest in them. You can get people sharing your event all day long, but if I'm scrolling through and I see that Bob shared this grainy video, I'm less likely to click in it than if it's something high quality and it looks really fun and that's something I want to be a part of. So promotion and production are the two keys there.
Well, I think, sorry, yeah, and someone else have fun? Have
Yeah.
fun. There you go. The last rule for everything. Always have fun. I appreciate, again, your honesty with everything, the goods and the bads and the uglies. It was really awesome to hear from you. Honestly, I could probably talk to all of you for another 4 hours. I feel like listeners and viewers will probably stop after 3 hours though. So we're going to have to, go. But thank you so much for being part of our video series today. Just really appreciate it. Everyone can find that on MidwestStudiesGroup.com. And to everyone who watched yet again, this is Chuck Rowe, Midwest Studies Group. Catch you next time.